Mask of a Diva, a Stan Kraychik mystery, Book 4, 1994. Author, Grant Michaels. Publisher, St. Martin's Press, New York. Author, Eric Aust. For all the divas, operatic and otherwise. Chapter 30. Daphne greeted me in the foyer. "How horrible," she said. "The maestro has been telling me all about it. Another body. It's just not possible." I shrugged. "On the bright side, you didn't have to fire him, and I got my job back." Daphne scoffed. "Is that all you can think of? That's a very selfish attitude, young man. There's an entire opera festival at stake. Our opening season may flounder because of the murders being committed here." "But none of it is any worse than what happens on stage with opera," I said. "The media scandal may even help the festival. You know how people are. Sex and violence sells." Daphne grimaced. "It's a sad state of affairs to admit that you may be right about that." "At least the investors will be happy," I said. "But at what cost, my dear?" She led me into the library, where the maestro was sitting by the fireplace. He was bristling with rage, more incendiary than the flames from the hearth. I said good evening. He replied angrily, "El tenente unfencesta." Daphne explained that everyone at the opera house had to submit to a rather humiliating procedure with the police that afternoon, and the maestro found it unpardonable. "I know," I said. "He's resorted to plucking hair now." The maestro said, "How can he think I killed Marcella? I tell him that girl is the dangerous one. She thinks she is a man." "You mean Rhonda, the stage manager?" "Si," said the maestro. "La Rhonda. Very dangerous. After the sitz probe, I stay backstage for a little while. I am very tired, so I want to be quiet. And then I see her with a big knife in her hand. She is playing with it like a toy." "What did it look like?" "It was the dagger which kills Ricardo." "A prop?" I said. "Si, a prop," said the maestro. "Not real." "It was real enough to penetrate Daniel Carafelio's heart." "Oh dear," exclaimed Daphne. "He was murdered with one of the props?" "It gets worse," I said. I told her about the bloody gauntlets that had vanished and then reappeared in the costume room, and why the lieutenant needed the hair samples to match the fragment he found in one of the gauntlets, I said. "Rolanda is a dangerous woman," repeated the maestro. "When I see her with that dagger, I think of Marcella when she sings Lady Macbeth. Some people like very much sharp knives." Daphne remarked, "And now someone is using props to kill people in the production. I hope we don't run out of people before opening night." "Or props," I said. "Touché," said Daphne. "Now I'm being selfish. At least the victims haven't been people who are crucial to the production, like Jonathan Byers or the maestro here." The maestro and Daphne exchanged dubious glances. "Or me, for that matter," said Daphne. "Madam Moneybags." "Or you," I allowed. Parker entered the library and announced a telephone call. "Lieutenant Branco calling for Mr. Kraychik." Daphne's eyebrows rose accusingly. "Twice in one day," she said. My. I took the call in the library in full view of Daphne and the maestro, just to prove I had nothing to hide from them, but then, why was I feeling defensive about it? Branco had the DNA analyst from Boston. The hair fragment in the gauntlet matched the sample taken from Jonathan Byers' hand. Branco said, "I'm about to confront him with the evidence. You want to come down here and see how it's done?" "Oh, sure," I said. "Where should I meet you?" "The Abigail Arms. I've got men posted all around the place, just in case Byers gets an itch to wander out before I get there. I'm heading over there now." "Okay," I said uncertainly. "I'm on my way too." But with his message successfully dispatched, Branco had already hung up, just the way Nicole often did. I excused myself to Daphne with the explanation that Branco was about to confront Jonathan Byers with incriminating evidence, and he thought I might learn something by watching him. She said, "It almost sounds as though he wants to perform for you." I blushed. Her remark had struck home. It was hardly standard procedure for someone like me to be invited to an arrest. Perhaps Branco did want me to witness his version of theater. A matinee idol cop in the arena of police brutality. It took me half an hour to find the Abigail Arms, and by then the cops had taken Jonathan Byers to the police station. When I got there, Branco had already begun interrogating Byers. The two of them were in a soundproof room along with an assisting sergeant. I wasn't allowed in there, of course, but Branco had instructed the local police to let me observe the whole process through the one-way glass. It was like watching big screen television in 3D. Branco said, "Why don't you just admit you stole the gauntlets?" The tiredness in his voice implied it wasn't the first time he'd said it. Byers replied, "I told you before, and I'll tell you again, I did not steal them. Where is my attorney?" "He's on his way, but it doesn't matter. We have proof." "I don't care what you have. I am not going to incriminate myself by saying the words you want me to say." Branco paused as though he'd heard Byers' remark for the first time. "All right," he said, "then why don't you tell me what you did in your own words?" "Ah," said Byers, "that's better." "Go on," said Branco. "Well, if you must know." "Yes." "I borrowed the bloody things." "All right. I intended to return them, but they were stolen from my hotel room." "Go on," said Branco. "That's it," said Byers. "Nothing else?" Byers was mute, but he gave the cop a pukish grin as if to prompt him to ask the precise question to receive a desired response. Branco seemed to catch on to the game immediately. "For what purpose did you borrow them?" he said. "To wear them," replied Byers. "What else would I do with them?" Branco said, "Where did you wear them?" "Clever, clever," said Byers. "You learn fast. Have you ever acted, Lieutenant?" "Where did you wear the gauntlets?" repeated Branco. "You really want to know, don't you?" "I do," said Branco. "Then I'll tell you, and I'm telling you because it's a little quirk of mine, and I have a sense you might share an understanding about such things." "Go on," Branco said coldly. "Yes, well, I did use them for sex." Byers then made a sinister theatrical laugh. Branco just said flatly, "Please go on." "I'd love to, Lieutenant. I'm beginning to think I really have your attention here. Or else you're a damn good actor." "Are you sure you were never on the boards?" "Well, it doesn't matter. I can't say I'm displeased. You are a handsome devil." "I'm listening," said Branco. "Yes, I suppose you are. Well then," he said, and paused and took a big breath as though preparing for a virtuoso display of oratory. "Let the big black box record the fact that Sir Jonathan Byers, Her Majesty's own knight-errant, likes to have sex with a prop, any prop, but preferably an important prop that's to be used on stage opening night." The last sounds of his stentorian voice echoed in the small chamber. He'd surely overloaded the tape recorder's circuits. Branco said, "A prop or a person?" "My dear Lieutenant, I thought the Puritans were extinct." "I can see how someone like you might think that." "Pity. We were going on so well until you started being judgmental. Now I'm afraid you've spoiled it." "I'm arresting you for murder of Marcella Ostinata." "On what grounds?" he said with a braying laugh. "A fragment of your hair was found inside one of the gauntlets that was drenched with her blood." "You fool," said Byers. "Of course my hair was in that gauntlet. I just told you I wore them during sex." Branco stood up and leaned towards Byers for his next question. "What stage prop did you use during sex at Spoleto?" Sir Jonathan shrank slightly in his chair. "Who told you about that?" he said. "That sniveling wig-maker?" "Which one?" said Branco, wounding me to the quick. Perhaps I whined, but I never sniveled. Byers said, "There's only one bloody wig man. He's dead." "There's the redhead, too," said Branco. "How strange to hear myself referred to in the third person." "Ah, yes," said Byers. "Your little deputy." Branco winced, but pressed on. "Carafolio reported that you had some trouble in Spoleto. We followed up on it and found nothing. A wave of relief washed over Byers' face. "I'm not surprised," he said. "Nothing," said Branco, "except that one of the stagehands at the opera house there died in a mysterious accident. Perhaps Carafelio knew some particulars about that accident." Byers said, "If I'd known he was going to open his fat piggy mouth, I would have stuffed it myself, and not with any damn gloves, you can be sure." Branco recited his next line flatly. "I have to advise you that anything you say may be used in evidence." Byers replied, "Lieutenant, do you realize the potential consequences of this desperate little arabesque of yours?" Branco remained stony. Byers went on, "Then I hope you are prepared to face the most gargantuan lawsuit of your career." Branco told the assisting sergeant to book him. Then he left the room. I intercepted him outside. Branco's eyes were like embers, and there was a moistness coming from his body, imbued with his familiar scent of balsam and clean cotton. I guess he got a physical rush whenever he arrested someone. Still, he looked plenty dissatisfied about something. I said, "What's wrong?" "Something is definitely not right," he said. "We've got 2 pairs of gloves, both pairs stolen and used in the killings of 2 different people that no one else gives a damn about, and I've just booked the director of the show for one of the murders on very flimsy evidence." He shook his head. "I know it's a mistake." "Then why did you do it?" "Because of that damn hair fragment. It was the only piece of evidence I had." "Maybe you put too much store in physical stuff." Branco gave me a withered look. He really looked tired. "Want to go for a beer?" he said. "I haven't eaten yet," I said stupidly. Then, too quickly, he replied, "Never mind, another time." As he walked away from me, I made a move to catch up with him. But then, what was I going to say? Was it my place to comfort a cop because he was lonely for his mom and dad? I watched him go out the side door, the cop's door, of the Abigail police station. I left by the front door and took the Alpha for a short drive before returning to the estate. With the top down and the night air flying around me, at least my sensual self was getting some attention. I stopped in at the hospital to see Maurizio, but they'd released him late that afternoon. Parker's daughter had picked him up and taken him back to her place to nurse him. I didn't know the way there, and I didn't feel like finding out, so I went home. When I got back, I learned from Daphne that Jonathan Byers' attorney had already telephoned her and explained the seriousness of the situation. She immediately offered to pay bail for Byers' release, and the lawyer had already been by to pick up the check. "He sure didn't waste any time," I said. "Of course not," said Daphne. "I told you before, my whole festival is at stake. The bail was astronomical, but I am certain of Sir Jonathan's innocence. His only concern is the production, not an indictment or a trial. And as for you, my dear, I'd be very cautious." "About what, Daphne?" "About the lieutenant. Though he's probably quite unaware of it himself, I suspect that he is courting you." "Daphne," I said, "he's straight. I think he's just very lonely. He needs a friend, and he's really awkward about it." "Weren't you lonely once?" she said. "Yes, but my loneliness was different. I wanted a lover. Branco's loneliness is more familial. See, he lost both his parents only a few months ago." "That's very tragic, my dear, and I'm sure it's affecting the man deeply, but losing one's parents is a natural course of events that one must face and adapt to. I think the death of his parents is irrelevant to the lieutenant's recent behavior towards you, except that perhaps now he feels more liberated about certain aspects of himself." "Daphne, are you saying he likes me?" "I think it's time you face the facts, my dear. There's a deep conflict in that man. I'm sure it's plagued him for years, and now he's on the verge of confronting it again." "But maybe losing his parents—" "Please let me finish. Until the lieutenant can face these uncharted regions of his psyche and seek some resolution there. And I'm not suggesting he's going to find any easy answer, one way or the other. If only it were so simple that all we had to do was make a choice. But until the lieutenant is willing to, at the very least, to acknowledge what his recent behavior toward you indicates, and it's been blatant enough for an old coot like me to recognize what's going on, then you're going to continue walking this razor's edge between attraction and aversion to each other. If this had been an opera, the score would have said Lunga Poisa. But what can I do, Daphne? I can't be Branco's therapist. My dear, it goes far beyond that. I can't face this now, I said. I'm hungry and I'm tired. Very well, but the longer you wait, the longer everything will stay exactly as it is. That's fine with me, I said. She shook her head with a look of grave disappointment. Where is your spunk? She said. I replied, my spunk is in Paris, convincing his parents that I'm worthy of him. Pah, said Daphne. Parents again. What do you care about his parents' approval? Why should he care? If you have a partner, he should be here with you now, pursuing you, including you in his life, exactly the way Lieutenant is trying to do. Gosh, I thought Branco. I hadn't expected this little deviation on the stereo board of my life. In my long years of loneliness, I had waited and yearned for a lover to appear, and somehow wishing upon that star night after night. I finally saw my dream come true, and as far as I was concerned, it was a fait accompli. I had a man I loved, and that was that. I certainly wasn't expecting to face the raging beast again, and most certainly not with Lieutenant Branco. No, Daphne was wrong. She had to be, in spite of her stellar credentials. When all was said and done, it was only her high-flown theory in contest with the physical evidence, or lack thereof, from Branco. I certainly didn't feel any physical attraction coming from him. At least nothing recognizable. In my eyes, we were trying to build a comfortable working relationship, maybe even becoming friends, if such a thing was really possible between a cop and a hairdresser. But attraction to me, from him, leading to what? Sex? Marriage? Daphne was projecting, no doubt about it. Even a world-class analyst was susceptible to psycho foibles. So I resolved that there was nothing to do except to carry on as I was. I would maintain the status quo with the cop, for no matter what action I took based on Daphne's theory, either toward Branco or away from him, I felt I would be defending against a phantom. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.